On the afternoon of December 15th, 2016, a frantic call came through to the police. A man had reportedly thrown himself in front of an oncoming train at the station. By the time officers arrived, the man was barely alive. His body was a mangled mess. Both of his hands were lost in the horrific incident. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. But it was what happened next that would send shockwaves through the investigation. While doctors fought to save him, the police went to his flat looking for any answers. What they found inside was far more disturbing than they could have ever imagined. A cold, lifeless body lay in the apartment, the third victim, as it would later be revealed. The man was Theodore Johnson, and the body in his home was just the beginning of a twisted tale that no one could have foreseen. But to truly understand how it all began, we have to go back to the start. Back to the moments before Johnson made his desperate, life-altering decision. If you find videos like these interesting, you can give this video a thumbs up. Theodore Johnson was born in Jamaica as one of 11 children. Little is documented about his early years, but like many Jamaicans in the mid-20th century, Johnson sought new opportunities abroad. He migrated to the UK, settling in Wolverhampton, where he worked in car repair services and got married to his first wife, Yvonne Johnson. The couple's marriage soon deteriorated. Their home in Franchise House, a high-rise apartment complex, became a battleground. On November 29, 1981, an argument escalated to a deadly conclusion between Johnson and Yvonne after she would not let him go to church for being, quote, not dressed well enough.
It was a Sunday and Yvonne wanted Theodore to dress for church.
It may have been about him feeling very belittled, about his wife saying that he wasn't smart enough to understand things to attend church.
Johnson hit Yvonne over the head with a vase before pushing her out of the balcony from the couple's 9th floor Wolverhampton home. When police arrived, they found Johnson calm and cooperative. He claimed that Yvonne had provoked him, and the courts believed his version of events. Charged with manslaughter rather than murder, Johnson received a shockingly lenient sentence of just 3 years in prison. The leniency shown to Johnson raises questions about societal attitudes towards domestic violence in the 1980s. Could the outcome have been different if Yvonne's cries for help had been taken more seriously? This early oversight would set a dangerous precedent, allowing Johnson to slip through the cracks and continue his cycle of violence. In 1992, 11 years after killing his first wife, Johnson had relocated to North London and entered into a relationship with Yvonne Bennett, a caring and trusting woman who saw potential in him. The two had a daughter together, but their relationship was plagued by Johnson's jealousy and controlling tendencies. In January 1993, their relationship reached its breaking point. Johnson discovered that Yvonne had been unfaithful, but instead of confronting her constructively, he plotted revenge. He began stalking Yvonne, and at one point had to be removed from the house by the police days before her death. In 1993, while their 2-year-old daughter was sleeping, Johnson strangled Bennett with a belt. He then phoned the police to confess his crime. Following the murder, Johnson attempted suicide by hanging himself from a tree in the nearby park. A passerby, however, discovered him and called for help, saving his life. At his trial at the Old Bailey, It was claimed that he suffered from depression and a personality disorder. He pleaded guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility and was found guilty and sent to a mental institution. For over a decade, Johnson's violent tendencies were contained, but systemic failures would once again allow him to return to society, where his pattern of destruction would continue. In September 1994, Theodore Johnson was granted escorted parole from the psychiatric ward for the first time. By mid-1995, he was attending a City and Guilds furniture restoration course on his own for 2 days. It was during this course that he met Angela Best, a 51-year-old mother of 4 who had moved to Tottenham from Manchester. The two quickly began a relationship. Johnson was released by a mental health tribunal in October 1997, under the condition that he notify his supervising doctors and the social workers about any romantic relationships he formed. However, he kept his relationship with Best a secret until shortly before her death. During a visit to his home in Dartmouth Park, authorities noticed a wood carving spelling out love on his mantelpiece, but it did not raise any suspicion. In September 2006, Best ended their relationship after learning about Johnson's violent past through a detailed letter he wrote detailing his crimes. After the breakup, she revealed that she had found happiness with someone new, while Johnson continued to profess his love for her daily. On December 8, 2016, Johnson denied being in a relationship when visited by a social worker and a psychiatrist. He showed no signs of depression at the time. 2 days before Angela's murder, a scheduled appointment with his social worker was cancelled due to illness. On December 15, 2016, Angela Best visited Johnson at his Islington flat to get assistance with an appointment at the Jamaican embassy. Shortly after entering, Johnson attacked her, striking her at least 6 times with a claw hammer before strangling her with a dressing gown cord. Best fought back, but ultimately succumbed to the assault. Hours after killing her, Johnson proceeded to throw himself in front of an express train at Chestnut railway station, losing his right arm and left hand in the process. While the medics were treating his injuries, authorities visited his home and discovered Best's body in the living room. Angela's death sent shockwaves through her family and the wider community, as details of Johnson's past came to light. Outrage grew over how a man with such a violent history had been allowed to live freely among the public. Theodore Johnson's case is a grim reflection of systemic failures at multiple levels, from the police to the courts. The justice system repeatedly failed to protect its victims. Domestic violence often goes underreported or is minimized, and Johnson's story is a stark reminder of what happens when warning signs are ignored. For Angela's family, the pain of her loss is compounded by the knowledge that her death was preventable. Had Johnson's earlier crimes been met with harsher sentences or stricter oversight, Angela and perhaps Yvonne Bennett might still be alive. In 2018, Theodore Johnson pleaded guilty to the murder of Angela Best. This time the courts showed no leniency. Johnson was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 26 years. The story of Theodore Johnson is one of repeated systemic failures. His ability to reoffend, despite his documented history of violence, highlights the glaring flaws in the justice system's ability to protect vulnerable women. For the families of Yvonne Johnson, Yvonne Bennett and Angela Best, justice came a minute too
Had he
late.
still been in there, this wouldn't have happened, so it could have been prevented. But I did predict that he would kill again. He's already killed 2 women. He loses his temper, he couldn't control himself, and that's why he's killed again.
This case is a sobering reminder of the dangers of domestic violence and the importance of vigilance in addressing repeat offenders. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, reach out to local authorities or support organizations. Together, we can prevent tragedies like these from happening again. Thank you for watching.